Well. Welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watsu-K99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. So we are on the brink of the start of the NBA season, and it's one of the most anticipated seasons that the New York Knicks have had in decades, I would dare say. We look at last year, they finished 51-31. That was their best record since 2013. They make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, beating Detroit and upsetting Boston along the way. But still, that loss to Indiana in the Eastern Conference Finals was, it drained me out like I swallowed a bottle of Drano. Just absolutely disgusting losing to that team again. So what did the Knicks do? Well, they decide that Tom Thibodeau apparently is the biggest reason why they couldn't make it to the finals, because they let him go. They hire Mike Brown, and they change some of the depth around. And with everything going on, not just with the Knicks, but around the Eastern Conference, this may be the best chance the Knicks have had to win the Eastern Conference since the 90s, and dare I say possibly win it all in 52 years. It's been 52 years since they've won an NBA title. So a lot of people, I think there's a lot of Knicks fans who are free to raise their expectations because you get so worried about being let down. All I know is, as a Knicks fan for 20 years, there were zero expectations. It was pretty much failure nearly every year. I mean, one playoff series win in basically 20 years it doesn't get much more depressing than that. So let's talk about this team. And I want to start with the head coach, because that is sort of the X factor. How is Mike Brown going to be a different head coach than Tom Thibodeau? So the first thing we have to keep in mind is that Mike Brown has that West Coast mentality. What he likes to do is have an offense that is about run and gun, quick movement, and it's about a lot of speed. And MSG, when the Knicks are at their best, it's all about grit and grind. So Mike Brown is going to be about speed, about spacing, selflessness, that's important, and shot making. So it's taking a core that is a pretty good all-around core and lift it past a level that Tom Thibodeau style, which was more deliberate, more slow, and see if that is what can make the difference. And I think this is really going to affect Jalen Brunson. So if you look at Jalen, in every year except for his rookie year, he made at least 40% of his three-pointers that were catch and shoot attempts, where he didn't have the ball very long. It was catch the ball, shoot the ball. But in 24-25, he really was not doing that much. So when you add Karl-Anthony Towns, you add Mikal Bridges into the New York Knicks mix, Brunson's usage rate and shot attempts went down a little bit. The issue with that, though, is he was still holding on to the ball a lot. Jalen Brunson leads the NBA in average seconds per touch, over 6 seconds per touch, and dribbles per touch. So for all the people who got on Carmelo Anthony all those years about being the isolationist, Jalen Brunson kind of plays a similar style, even though they do play different positions. So what does Mike Brown want to do? He wants to get Brunson off of the ball more often. He wants to find Brunson more of those spot-up threes that he's good at, rather than dribble, and then shoot. Sometimes it works, but too many times it doesn't. And what Mike Brown said in a recent presser about Jalen was, the ball will be in his hands, especially down the stretch, and to make the game easier throughout the course of the game is going to be a big thing. I think Mike Brown knows that Jalen Brunson is this team's heart and soul. He is the engine that drives the car. And if he wants Brunson to be as fresh as possible, and if that means he's not holding on to the ball as much during the regular season, then that's what he'll do. Brown wants to push the pace, make quick decisions, and make plays out of concepts rather than set plays. And we're already seeing that in the preseason. The offense isn't coming to that screeching halt as much as it used to, and the rest of the roster has kind of evolved to match that mission of better shooting, faster speed, and more depth. Well, at least to some extent. So let's talk about the improved depth. I'm going to get into a couple of reasons why the Knicks can win it all. And the first one is the depth. So last year it felt like Tom Thibodeau was under fire because he wasn't playing the bench players. Well, he didn't exactly have the bench players to work with. Cam Payne had one good playoff game, and outside of that, he was in the witness protection program. Just as a for instance, the Knicks were basically 7 deep, and they should be a lot deeper than that this year. The Knicks have 2 top players at their respective positions, which we already know, in Towns and Brunson. You have several borderline all-star level players to support them with Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby. Then you add some bench options. they can be some of the better bench options in the league when they're productive. Now, you've got your 4 entrenched starters in Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby. Then you have Josh Hart, Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson. Any one of those 3 can start on any given night. Then you add in now Jordan Clarkson, Gershon Yabusele, and then you have what could be a total package. These players bring some strong individual production, but they're also going to address specific needs that will keep the returning rotation fresher. That is what is so important. Yabusele in particular could be a very sneaky good signing. He's a proper 4. He can space the floor, post up mismatches, and he can defend a 5 when necessary. And after that, you have Tyler Kolek, Landry Shamet, Macomb Dadier, Ariel Hukporti. They're basically going around out the roster. Hopefully one of them can produce when needed. So the second thing I want to talk about why the Knicks are in a great position to win the whole thing, the East is very vulnerable. The biggest obstacles were the Pacers and the Celtics, okay? And they're both going into the season without their best players. Tyrese Halliburton and Jason Tatum both suffered Achilles tears during the postseason. Without them, those 2 teams are playoff teams, but they aren't title contenders. And more than that, the front offices seem to have that mentality. You know, Boston traded players off, Kristaps Porzingis among them. The Pacers let Miles Turner go. So don't expect Tatum and Halliburton to get rushed back. Now, Cleveland has been a top seed and a high talent threat for years. I think Kenny Atkinson is an outstanding coach, but they never seem to win a pivotal playoff series to get them over the hump. So most people are thinking that Cleveland is the most likely team to win the Eastern Conference. Well, they got to prove that they can get to an ECF first. Orlando, I think that's the team on the rise to watch out for. They may be the 3rd best team in the East right now. Atlanta is up there too. Giannis and Joel Embiid, hey, yeah, they're still in the conference, but their teams are loaded with question marks coming off very disappointing seasons. The third thing I want to mention why the Knicks can make a long run or win the whole thing, they should expect to win. They should have a chip on their shoulder. The Knicks have come close over the last several years. They are battle-tested. They know what it takes. They've seen what works. They've seen what doesn't work. Jalen Brunson gets these All-NBA honors, and he's made so many big postseason plays, but he's always dismissed when it comes to talking about who the best players are in the league. It seems like he still has to establish the fact that he is an elite NBA player. Now, Karl-Anthony Towns, he looked a little shaky defensively in the postseason, and some people still question if an NBA team can win the whole thing with him. Mikal Bridges, he will always be tied to that trade. The Knicks had to give up, he keeps getting talked about, 5 first-round picks to pry him away from Brooklyn. And unless you get to, at the very least, the finals, you really can't justify that trade price. OG Anunoby, he signed the biggest contract in Knicks history after they traded 2 homegrown pieces in Emmanuel Quigley and RJ Barrett to get him in there. Leon Rose, the man who brought it all together, he fired the coach who helped them to get here to prove the Knicks can win the whole thing. And his legacy, as good as Leon Rose has been, his legacy is resting on that bet right now. And don't think Mike Brown isn't a little bit aggravated either. He fell short with both LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. He's got to show it was the fault of his stars and not his own. So let's look at this Knicks rotation. Now, of course, you have Brunson and Towns, amazing offensive players, not exactly known for playing the best defense. I think Mikal Bridges, his performance will play a key role. And I want to talk about him for a second because last year his three-point shooting was not where it needed to be. It was at its lowest percentage since his rookie year in Phoenix, which was 2018-2019. His rebounds down to 3.2 per game. Again, lowest since his rookie season. This is now his second year in New York, proper New York. He needs to take that leap. If he does that, the Knicks, I think, could definitely be the best team in the East. Of course, OG has to remain healthy. But what about that fifth starter? That is a big question. Does Mitchell Robinson start and move Karl-Anthony Towns to power forward? Now, Mitch would help the Knicks be more big, more burly, much more physical. Of course, with Mitch, you do need to limit his minutes, and we already know he's not going to be playing opening night Wednesday in the Garden against Cleveland, more of a maintenance issue. But that lineup there is probably a top 10 defense in the NBA. Offense wouldn't be as great. We know about Mitchell's free throw woes. But on the other side, if you put Karl-Anthony Towns at center, you're playing a pick-and-roll style of basketball with Jalen Brunson. So that's the tricky thing. The Knicks' best defensive lineup has Robinson at the 5. The best offensive lineup has Towns at the 5. And who's that fifth starter along the 4 entrenched starters? Is it Deuce McBride? Is it Josh Hart? Is it Mitchell Robinson? Well, we already know that Hart and Robinson are not playing Wednesday night. I already mentioned Robinson, but we now know Josh Hart will not play as well. Shoot, Hart's going to have a splint on his right hand all season. His right ring finger has not healed quite right during the offseason. As much as I respect him, as much as I love his energy and his gumption, I'm a little bit worried about him. So I would expect Deuce McBride to be the starter Wednesday night. We'll see about that. But clearly, with 2 important pieces out, Knicks are going to have to use that bench, and they're going to have to use it quickly. And speaking of those 5 starters, last year the Knicks were starting Brunson, Hart, Bridges, Anunoby, and Towns. But it struggled in the later part of the regular season. If you want to get into the semantics, if you look at net rating, that starting 5 had a minus 1.4 net rating in regular season games in the calendar year of 2025. Let's make it a little bit more simple, just for my own sake. The starting 5 was outscored by a total of 50 points through the first 13 games of their 17-game playoff run. So that may not be the best starting 5 that you can use. Again, it goes back to Mike Brown. What is he going to do? Is he going to stick with that lineup that was used most often last year when the Knicks won a lot of games and made the ECF? Will he make a change? You know, before Brown was hired, the Knicks talks with some of the free agents included the idea that Towns and Robinson would be starting together in 25-26. Now it's up to Mike Brown on what he's going to do and how fast the Knicks can find that adjustment, what their bread and butter is, what those lineups should look like, and how fast they adjust to this new style of offense. It's going to go a long way to determining the Knicks' success in the regular season. So as far as a prediction goes, I'm going to predict the Knicks finish a little bit behind Cleveland. I think Cleveland is a little bit deeper. They are going into another year with Kenny Atkinson, who, as I said earlier, I think is a very good coach. I'm going to say Cleveland has the number 1 seed, but I'll give the Knicks the 2nd seed. I think they win their first Atlantic Division title since, my God, it feels like the Clinton administration. And I'm going to say they win 55 games and they make it all the way to the NBA Finals. I don't have the confidence they could beat in Oklahoma City if they get there. Even Denver would be really challenging. But I think this is the first time we see the Knicks in the finals in what would be 27 years. Yeah, 98, 99. Yeah, that was the last time. So for 25-26, it'd be 27 years. So those are my thoughts on the New York Knicks. If you've got some thoughts on them, put them right down there in the comments. And reminder, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. We go live every Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. And I will see you all right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair.